get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down.
And welcome in. We appreciate you dropping by in this edition of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Vince Progard, that's me. Happy to be joined, as always, by my longtime partner in crime, Phil Byrne. And Phil, tough afternoon for the Lions fans near and far.
Yeah, it was. This was the first game that I had the opportunity to go to this year, and I don't think was reminiscent of the Commanders game per se, but there is a couple of things and trends that we'll talk about that continue to rear their ugly head up. From a fan perspective, got to give credit to the Lions fans. They were in this game. A number did leave late in the game when with about 5 minutes left. Lions had all 3 timeouts. And of course, we made it a game later on in the towards the end there. But really, really hard to watch. Credit to J.J. McCarthy and really what was his, I think, 3rd start as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He was effective when he needed to be. And, the Lions have had the Vikings number from the last couple of outings here that we've seen. So, I mean, I guess it was only fitting and due that it would swing the other way.
Yeah, in case you lost track, that's only the first time that the Lions have lost at home to Minnesota since the Quinn Trisha era. So
yeah.
It's been a minute since Minnesota's had any type of real success against the Lions in Detroit. First time that the Lions have lost them in 3 seasons. So not something that we've seen particularly often, but still disturbing nonetheless.
But the Vikings are a well-coached team. I mean, they were the team that came out prepared and looked like they were ready to play. And again, the Lions coming off the bye week, just like any other time we've seen in the start of a regular season or last year coming in off the bye in the playoffs. Rust is a real thing with this team, and it really shouldn't be with how veteran this team is at this point. But
no, I'm glad you brought that up,
weren't
Phil,
ready to go.
because if you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to, and I'm glad you did to get this thing started. So you're right. That's 3 times in the last less than a calendar year. So it was first round bye to start the playoffs, and you go in Washington flat as a pancake. After the offseason, week 1 on the road in division against a team that's going to contend for the title at Green Bay, you come in flat as can be. And then off the bye week, divisional opponent at home, a game that you're touchdown plus favorites to win, you go out there flat as all get out. So that's 3 times. What's the old saying? Once is a mistake, twice is a trend, and 3 times. I mean, we're starting to see something awfully disturbing here. Where is this coming from? You're talking about a veteran coaching staff. You're talking about veteran players. This isn't a young team. This isn't a new coaching staff. I understand there's new pieces in place, but the nucleus of what this franchise has been in place for some time now. Why is this now becoming a situation?
To me, this is a Jared Goff and coaching situation. He is the guy that has to run this show. He cannot have an off day, a bad start when the running game was non-existent to start the game. Looking at the stats here, we had Jahmyr Gibbs with 95 yards total in this game on 9 carries. David Montgomery had 40 yards on 11 carries. So he had a little bit more of a higher yards per average at 3.6 to Gibbs 2.8. No real explosive runs in this game whatsoever. Minnesota did a fantastic job bottling it up. We know Minnesota with that Flores defense is going to blitz a heck of a lot, and we waited too long to get Jameson Williams involved in the downfield passing attack. When I went into this game thinking that was something, because there was already the criticism of the talk of it with John Morton in the bye week that again we had the Ofer game. for JMO, that they needed to get him involved. And again, credit to Sam Laporta. He's going to catch when the ball is there. St. Brown, again, he got banged up a little bit. I think did a nice job. But they are simply not looking downfield enough. And there were several times, too, when Jared Goff continued to find something check down. So is this he doesn't trust his offensive line to protect him long enough to go ahead and throw it down? I think some of this needs to fall back on Goff. I know it is a different play caller than what we had a year ago. You brought it up during the bye week, though. On third down, we are atrocious this year. Minnesota was fantastic on third down in this game. So that reared its ugly head there. So I think this is a loss that you can I think at this time say that rust is a real thing with these guys. I think it's Goff and I think it's the coaching for why we were coming out so rusty. Defense, we know they got some injuries. It wasn't great. They made some plays when it needed to be done. I wouldn't put their grade anything more than a C minus. But frankly, to go into halftime, to go into the fourth quarter with only 17 points at home when you're a 9.5 point favorite, not good enough. That's not
No,
going to get it done.
yeah, so that's a good viewpoint as to what happened today, but how do you explain the week 1 against the Packers? How do you explain the playoff game against the Commanders? Why are they coming out so flat in these gotta have it type of games? I mean, these are golden opportunities, whether it's a home playoff game, whether it's
Yeah.
on the road in the division to set the tone, whether it's at home against a team that's down on their luck right now in division. These are all gotta have it games. And against it just makes zero sense. A team that has such veteran players like this, a team that's coached by a head coach in his 5th year who talks all about grit and toughness and biting kneecaps and all that, it's completely counter to what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's the $1 million question. Why does this keep happening? Because I think that Green Bay game, the preseason rust, shaking that off, having the Micah Parsons element, I'll say there's a little bit of unknown in that game. I'm willing to give a little bit of a flyer in that one. But the playoff game against the Commanders and this game against the
No
Vikings,
excuse.
yeah, a team you know very, very well, maybe better than just about any other team in the NFL outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we always play. Um, this is something that there was absolutely no excuse from what we saw today. Um, again, credit the team for again fighting through and making it only a 3 point game. This was not a 3 point loss, though. In reality, we did lose this game by about 10 points.
Yeah, it never really felt like they were in it. And it's a situation of, in the final moments of the game, do you have the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead? And they did not. They needed an onside kick to go their way. They needed Minnesota to go 3-and-out on that final drive, and the Lions using all their timeouts and hoping they'd get the ball back with a minute and some change. And it never came down to that. So, of course, it looks closer on paper than what it actually was. And if you were to even look at the box score, Minnesota
Yeah.
failed to get to 300 yards of offense. Now, granted, they were set up on a few short fields at the very, very beginning of the game. They did take that kickoff return after the Lions scored their opening drive touchdown. They took that deep into Lions territory. So, of course, they were set up in good field position there. On the blocked field goal, same thing. They were set up in good field position, and they were able to capitalize. So it's not like Minnesota needed to string drives together. But talking about some disturbing trends here. So, Phil, we did notice that once again, the Lions, who came into this one at the bottom quarter of the NFL, you and I haven't talked about this a whole lot because things were going well enough up to this point to where it wasn't really worth making a mountain out of a molehill about. But now
Yeah.
in a loss, we can kind of start to look back on it some more. The Lions are in the bottom quarter of the NFL in third down conversion rate. They're just not getting it done on third down. We mentioned it a week ago that they're not getting it done on third and long. They at least finally today, a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, converted 1 third down and 10 plus in this
hmm
game, but they were unable to get it done the rest of the way. What do you attribute to the Lions' lack of third down success? Is it more of a mental thing of knowing that, hey, because we go for it so often on fourth down, it's not necessarily the money down, the gotta have it down to where the inherent pressure just isn't there to deliver on third down, or is it something else? What say you?
So I think this game is maybe a little against the trend for what we've seen throughout the season. This game, it felt like they were in third and long all game long. I think they only had a handful where maybe it was third and three, third and four. Pretty much everything else because of a penalty, because of a sack. Jared Goff was sacked 5 times in this game.
It felt like it was more.
Yeah, you were looking at like third and 14, third and 13, third and 12 each time. Again, the running game being non-existent too, like you weren't able to use that second down play, um, to get some yards back in the rushing attack. So, uh, again, like I think parts of this offensive line has been serviceable against some weaker opponents. It's actually been pretty good. Um, but there are several plays throughout this game, throughout the season, where we really, really still miss Frank Ragnow. And having a center that is a little bit larger to be able to control and push that interior arc of the offensive line, get out on blocks, get out on screens. We don't have that anymore. So again, it is very challenging. And as a Lions fan, obviously we don't like these losses or anything like that, especially when they're in division. Um, but one of the painful things about this is just having these opportunities that go by the wayside when you know you've got Green Bay on your heels. You got them at home on Thanksgiving, and somehow the Carolina Panthers went into the Lambeau today and got a win there. So, an absolutely blown opportunity. This team was unprepared. No unit really played well. Special teams, again, a blocked field goal, long returns on returns. This team was not ready to go today, and this was painful to watch in person. Again, you still get the good environment of Ford Field to make it feel like it's the good old days and things like that. But at times this was not a fun one to watch in person.
Definitely a squandered opportunity being able to be in front of your home fans in the year where you're going to have the only 8 home game compared to 9
Yeah.
away games, the way the schedule works in the odd number, even number years. So definitely a squandered, missed opportunity, no doubt about it. Another disturbing trend that I've picked up on is you have a scenario where the Lions offense, granted, under a new coordinator this year in John Morton, but you kind of have to throw that out at this point because now we're 9 weeks into the season. It's not like this is the first time that we're seeing any of this stuff in person. We've had 2 full months of the season to be able to know what John Morton's all about, know what buttons he likes to push, and all that. And granted, the Lions did score on their opening drive on a couple of nice plays by Sam Laporta, nice hustle plays to really, in my mind, be the most productive Lion on the day, period. But if you look at the Lions drives from there on, so Lions opening drive, 6 plays, 72 yards, and they did it quickly and efficiently in about 2.5 minutes. Drive number 2, 3 and out, -7 yards. Drive number 3, 6 plays, 14 yards. Drive number 4, they got a touchdown off a short field off of the J.J. McCarthy interception. Okay, so that's great. They were able to capitalize off a short field. Drive number 5, 3 and out, 6 yards. Drive after that, 3 and out, -1 yard. Second half, first drive of the second half, 3 and out, 8 yards. 3 plays, 8 yards, fumbled the ball. So we're seeing these prolonged stretches during the
Yeah.
game, even in some of these wins, to
Yeah.
where the defense was able to pick up the slack or that the offense did just enough earlier on in the game to where they weren't having to pay for it necessarily. But we're seeing this offense completely disappear for elongated stretches of the game. What do you attribute to that, Phil?
I don't know what you can attribute it to other than just is it not being focused? Is it bad play calls? Is it bad protection. Um, again, sacked 5 times, basically no production from the ground game. This was a game that you would think in theory, okay, well, if we were going to win, this is one that has to come off the passing arm of Jared Goff, and I don't think he had enough good throws to be able to do that. He kind of padded his stats towards the end with 284 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I know at one point around the third quarter, when we were starting to get those 3 and outs, he was sitting at around 130 yards passing. Not good enough. He's got to do better. That offensive line has to do better. We did lose Christian Mahogany in the game. He did get technically carted off, even though he stood up. So we'll have to see what the injury prognosis is there. But NFL trade deadline is on Tuesday. So if you're listening to this on Monday, we don't know what that play is going to be. Brad Holmes has got to do something. We cannot sit this one out. I think we know what the potential of this team can be when we're firing on all cylinders. That was a garbage game to be at today. I think the team was unmotivated. I think because they've had recent success against Minnesota, they were unfocused. I don't know what else it can attribute to. That is one of the longest stretches throughout this game where that offense is just not having any success. And it's not just like, oh, okay, they got a first down or two and then they punted. We're talking 3 and outs with -1 yard. What, 3 yards, 5 yards? It's you can't even get a series going.
And you're not
So,
taking any time off the clock either. I mean, the Lions
yeah,
somehow, just because of some of those garbage time, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, one drive where they had to settle for that field goal, and then the other one where they missed the field goal. So you're talking 3 points on two elongated drives where they had 5+ minutes of possession and 6+ minutes of possession. Up until then, so you're talking the first 2 3/4 quarters thereabouts, you're talking the Lions with the ball 223, 229, 337, 419, 129, 26 seconds, 107, 59 seconds before they finally started to string minutes worth of a drive together. So again, that's emblematic of the Lions not being able to get the run game going. But you'd think that the other side of the offense would be able to pick it up a little bit and make a few more plays in the passing game, whether it be the dump off to Amon-Ra, whether it be Laporta doing more of what he did on that opening drive. It seems to me like the Lions got completely away from Laporta after that first drive. Credit Minnesota for maybe making some adjustments on defense, but
yeah,
I don't think St. Brown really got going until that very last touchdown scoring drive when the game was, let's call it what it really is, Phil, out of reach at this point. So, and you called it. They didn't get Jamison Williams going until late in the third quarter when things started to look a little bit bleak. So it just seemed like they dicked around for way more of this game than what they needed to.
yeah.
And
And I just think they need to. I'm not saying that we need to go back to the Ben Johnson circus plays when like there's just nothing going. But if you can't run the ball, and we know Minnesota's going to blitz, and when Minnesota blitzes, if we can't run the ball and Jared Goff is just sitting back there, it falls on the receivers to get open. And if they're not getting open and they got good coverage and there's a blitz coming, we're dead in the water. We can't do anything. So not every defense we're going to face is going to be as aggressive like Minnesota. That's what their calling card is. But this was a terrible recipe, a terrible game plan. Hank Fraley, I think he's the best assistant that the Lions have. I think he needs to get with John Morton this week and figure out the protections and figure out why they couldn't get the run game going in this game. They got to get this fixed moving forward because Gibbs and Montgomery way too talented to be held both under 40 yards. Someone's got to have a big day. Like you can't be under 100 yards rushing when you got two guys as talented as that.
so I understand, Phil, and I own it that I didn't project the Lions to be sitting at 5-3 the first game off the bye week. I think they're right up around where you
Yeah.
anticipated they would be preseason. But let's look ahead. They're at the Commanders next week. They're at the Eagles the following week. They have the Giants at home after that. There was a moment in time where that game looked a lot less certain, and now injuries have really decimated the Giants' threat level
Giants.
at this point.
Yeah.
And then you have the Packers on Thanksgiving. So it's not going to get any easier than this. Hot take Progar over here, I get it, but what I saw against Minnesota tells me without any shadow of a doubt this team, as it's currently constructed, is not winning a Super Bowl. So you mentioned the trade deadline. From the time we're recording, it's less than 48 hours away. By the time this hits your device, you're talking close to 24 hours between that time and the trade deadline. So, what's the play for the Lions this trade deadline? I think we're both in full
Yeah.
agreement they have to do something, but
So
what do they do?
first thing I would do, make a call to whoever is acting as the Tennessee Titans general manager and go get Kevin Zeitler back. He is a vet that signed a free agent deal on a team that is going nowhere. Go give him like a sixth round pick. I don't care. Go get him back. Um,
Regardless of what the prognosis to Mahogany is.
yeah, I think we need additional help on that offensive line. And even Decker getting banged up, and now we've got you know, some other guys that we're going to have to go fill in there. So with Dan Skipper, so that would be the first call that I would make. Which so that goes completely against the grain of everything I've been saying with the defense and things like that. I think secondly, the Miami Dolphins, they just fired their general manager. I don't know who is calling the shots there. That happened Saturday, I
Some
want to
guy
say.
named Champ Kelly is now in charge.
Champ Kind Sports from Anchorman. But I think they have a couple players on defense also that I would take a look at. I know Jalen Phillips, the defensive end, has been bandied about that Brad was inquiring about him.
Isn't Bradley Chubb still down there too? Rotting
He
away?
is. He is. Yep. Yep. So I don't know who they would rather have or who is kind of more discussion, but those are two talented defensive ends there that I don't think are going to cost you the Trey Hendrickson salary. The Bengals did lose to the Browns today, or not the Browns, the Bears today. So they've been putting up some numbers with Joe Flacco, but that defense is horrendous. Maybe you can still make a last second push to go get Trey Hendrickson. He does have an expiring contract. I think that's something to look at.
He does
And
have
then
a recent hip injury, though, that I don't know if I'd want to absorb the effects of that when you're trying to right the ship here.
and then let's just be real here. I love Amik Robertson. I love his mentality, but this was not the game that he had a year ago against Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson had a fantastic game against him today.
Did he, though? I mean,
Again,
he had that nice one handed grab, but he was less than 50 yards of receiving. So it's not like he went out there and put up a
oh,
hundred and a
okay,
half like he
you're right.
usually did. But I see
Yeah,
what you're
he
saying,
did have a
though. It
touchdown.
wasn't a banner day by really anybody except maybe Terrion Arnold with that nice contested interception first game back from injury. But you're right. I can't think of anybody that really went out there and played great on
Yeah.
defense in this game.
So again, I think we are going to need a cornerback. So maybe that's also from the Dolphins. Dolphins and Titans, though, those are two teams that are going to be so far out of contention. Take a look there. New Orleans Saints, they're out of contention. Take a look there. These are teams that, am I wanting to give up a first round pick? No, not necessarily. But I would say a Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips potentially could be worth it. If we're talking the potential to get into a Super Bowl, if it's going to be enough of a bonus to the defense, the offensive line though, I think we have to do something there, and it was not apparent to me until today, um, because now if Mahogany is hurt, we're of course going to have to rely upon Glasgow and um, our rookie Tate Ratledge even more. So they've been good against some worse teams, but I think we need a vet in there, and I think Zeitler would be able to prove that on offense.
And it didn't help that you looked at Decker down on the turf a handful of times over
Yeah.
the course of the game. Sewell looked like he was battling an eye thing and a shoulder thing. They took Ratledge out for a few plays. We saw Awasika rotating in there regularly. So I think this was the most vulnerable, at least from an injury perspective, we saw the offensive line in sum total, more so than any game this season. So I don't
Yeah.
think the opportunity to bolster the offensive line, which is supposed to be the strength of this team, is something that should be ignored. I definitely don't think that we need to let go the whole getting to the quarterback thing. I think you look at the sacks, again, just looking at the stat sheet, Lions gave up 5 sacks. Minnesota gave up 5 sacks, but a lot of that is not when or the fact that it happens, but when it's happening. And it seemed like whenever the Lions got to McCarthy, it wasn't in a particularly high leverage or highly pressure packed situation. On the other hand, the Lions were not winning on first down and not winning on second down. They were setting up third down and
Yeah.
long. And now all of a sudden you give up a sack on third down and long and you're done. Boom. So I don't think that even though the numbers set a different story, I don't think the Lions are doing a great job at the getting to the quarterback thing. I think if you start to dig into the metrics a little bit, their win rate, if you will, has got to be near the very bottom of the NFL. They're just not doing a good enough job of getting home, even though you look at, okay, Hutchinson has a sack in 6 straight games or something like that, a franchise record. But you have to look at that in context, and they're just not getting the quarterback when it matters. It didn't look like McCarthy was under duress a whole lot in this game, and it looked like they were withstanding whatever the Lions defense brought towards them. You can't say the same about the Lions. It seemed like the linebacking core for the Vikings was all over the place, and they were getting to that ball seemingly in record time. And it just seems like more needs to be done to improve this defense. And I don't think injuries have a whole lot to do with it. I just think
Yeah.
they're a little outmanned and a little out talented going up against some of these teams. And you have a perfect opportunity sitting right in front of you here in the next day or two to go out and improve your fortunes. And if they sort of stand pat and say, you know what, we think we have what it takes to win a Super Bowl within these 4 walls, I think that's a loser's mentality. And I think you're going to finally slowly start to see a little bit of fan unrest in Lionstown. You haven't
Potential.
seen that really at all up
No.
until now, but I think if you see absolutely nothing take place and they take another one on the chin, maybe not in the Commanders game, but in the Eagles game in a couple of weeks, or maybe even both, I think this thing's going to take a hard left a lot quicker than people realize.
Yeah, I think also like this team, it just does not have the same high end feeling that we had last year. Even without Hutch, I mean, what that team accomplished last year, what the offense was able to do, what the defense was able to muster, with all the pieces out.
It's looking more outer space the farther away we
Yeah,
get from that.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's a little bit of a comeback to earth that we are starting to see. Now, when we talk about our predictions and things like that, I did have the Packers winning the division, Lions getting into the playoffs as a wild card. I think whether the Lions win the division, whether they get in the wild card, I still think that is out there. I think there's no doubt in my mind this is still a top 10 team in the NFL with the way it's constructed. That was a bottom 10 of the NFL performance that I saw today, though. That was not a good enough. All 3 phases of the team, you want to throw the coaching in there as the fourth phase. They all got beat by Minnesota. So, not impressive to say the least.
So we've got the Lions taking on the Commanders, 425 on Fox, America's Game of the Week on Sunday for the Week 10 matchup. It seems like we're in this predicament more often than not, Phil, where we can't fully preview the game because the Commanders are kicking off as we speak. They're on Sunday Night Football at home against the Seahawks. It's going to be a tough game for them, but it sounds like Jaden Daniels should be good to go by the time they play the Lions next week. We're not sure. We'll keep an eye on it. But bottom line, the Lions are virtually unbeatable in the game immediately following a loss. They don't have time to tap dance around here. They need to get back on track and fast because it's about to get real here with this schedule. So, Week 10, Lions at Commanders. Forget about the revenge tour from the playoffs. I mean, that was so far in the rearview mirror. We need to worry
No.
about what's right here in front of us. Just go out and get a win. Forget about what happened in the playoffs.
I will say this Commanders team, and again, we will see what happens on Sunday Night Football as we're recording this. Um, Jaden Daniels being hurt for a portion of the season, and having to have Marcus Mariota as their quarterback. Their running back situation's still a little strange to me. They just went ahead and dealt their starter Brian Robinson for seemingly, a bag of Snickers or something like that. So, um, it's a very unusual Commanders team that we're facing, but just like we saw this week with Minnesota, a very well coached team, and they have good coordinators in place. So, again, I don't think it is maybe the same threat of a Commanders team that we had last year going into that playoff game, but certainly a team that don't count your laurels and just think this is going to be a Lions back, you know, get right game or anything like that. This is going to be a battle.
I'd be remiss if we didn't take a moment to at least mention the fact that the Lions did indeed get the deal done with Aiden Hutchinson
Yeah.
midweek.
Yep.
So 4 years, $180 million. The line, no pun intended, Lions share of that guaranteed, about 140 plus of that guaranteed. In my mind, Phil, I think that was a good deal for both sides. I think both sides probably went to bed Wednesday night happy with how everything shook out. I'm in agreement there. What are your thoughts on the deal?
Yeah, and I think it was something that as more time went on, I was getting a little nervous about it. What was the hang up for what was happening? So again, he's part of the core, and that is what Brad Holmes' legacy as a GM has been to this point, and kind of get deals done for the guys that are part of the core here. So again, there's still a handful of guys that if this is going to be our core for several years now. We'll have to see where we go from here and what's done. But I'll be honest. Let's go ahead and table all these extensions at least for the next 48 hours. Brad needs to be working the phone. He's got to get some more people in here.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. And what also makes this game against the Vikings sting a little bit more is the fact that it was a missed opportunity to gain some ground in the
Yeah.
division. So the Packers went out and dumped a tough one at home to the Carolina Panthers. So if I'm either going to lose a home game in division to a team like the Vikings or a team like the Carolina Panthers, who's kind of been struggling to do much of anything the last half decade or so, that was a tough loss for the Packers at home. Sounds like they lost more than just the game. It sounds like Tucker Kraft, who has arguably been their number one player on offense all season long up to this point, is looking at a possible ACL issue. So sounds like Green Bay's got some issues of their own to be taken care of here pretty soon. Meanwhile, the Bears, as you mentioned earlier, took care of the Cincinnati Bengals in a shootout. So now, as we head into Week 10, Phil, the Lions and the Bears are sitting dead even at 5-3 on the record, just a half game behind the Green Bay Packers in the division race. Some other games of note from around the NFL: the Buffalo Bills, once again in a highly entertaining game, took care of the Kansas City Chiefs 28-21. And over in the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts dropped their second loss of the season to the Steelers, 27-20. And how about those New England Patriots, Phil? 24-23 winners over the Atlanta Falcons. They're at 7-2.
Yeah.
at daylight savings time kickoff day.
So entering this week, I didn't even realize they were leading the AFC East. I just assumed it was the Bills. No, it's the New England Patriots, ladies and gentlemen. Drake May is the real deal.
And the rematch between the Patriots and the Bills is going to take place in Foxborough because the Patriots already went into Buffalo and got the job done earlier in the season. So,
Yeah.
hey, I've said this before and I'm going to say it now, Phil. Nobody really knows anything when we start talking about the NFL. Let's get to some picks, Phil. We've got the Berlin game coming up in week 10. The Falcons are catching 7 as they travel over to Germany to take on the Indianapolis Colts, both off of tough losses this week. Falcons against the Colts.
I not really sure what happened with the Colts in this game. I know I've seen the stats. Look like Daniel Jones had a very off game.
Which
They
is going
weren't
to
really,
happen.
yeah. So I think they're going to have a bounce back game, though. I think they are destined to be in the playoffs and win that division. So I'll go ahead and take the Colts.
I'm going to go with the Colts as well, but the bigger story for me is when in God's name are the Falcons going to get it figured out? They've got all these pieces on
Uh,
offense. They've made so many different moves to try and slowly but surely improve that defense, and nothing they seems to do works. And it seems like nothing ever gets going on offense the way it's supposed to on paper. It's going to continue. Give me the Colts to lay the 7 points. Next game up is the Ravens, 3.5 point favorites as they travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Both teams coming off big wins this week. Ravens, 3.5 point favorites over the Vikings, Phil.
I'm gonna go and pick the Ravens to cover. I know the Vikings obviously got this win today. Ravens, Lamar Jackson, they looked impressive against the Dolphins. Yes, it was the Dolphins, but I think they're going to continue playing pretty hot. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Ravens in that one.
I agree, Phil. I'm extremely encouraged by what I saw. Granted, it was against the Dolphins on Thursday night, but you have Lamar Jackson coming back from injury, and it looks like he didn't miss a beat. 4 touchdown passes. Minnesota, I don't think they played particularly well against the Lions. I think it was kind of a sluggish performance on their end, and they just happened to have more points on the scoreboard. Give me the Ravens to keep things going. And in the who's going to win this one, Phil, the Cleveland Browns catching 1.5 as they travel to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Jets. Do the Jets get
You know,
Aaron Glenn another victory next week, Phil?
Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Jets, right?
That's the way it sounds.
And it's Dylan Gabriel for the Browns. Yikes. I don't want to watch this game. Hmm. What the heck? Let's go with the Jets. Let's get it done.
I can't do it, Phil. I can't lay points with the New York Jets. I don't care what that point spread is. Give me the Browns and the 1.5, I guess. All right, Phil. I think that's enough Lions for one day. At you being at the game, me watching the game, us talking about it. Let's just take a deep breath. Let's end this and let's go about the rest of our day. I think that's going to be good for all parties involved. We
Yeah.
appreciate you joining us on this episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Hopefully, we've got more good news as the Lions take on the Commanders in our nation's capital. Win or lose, Phil and I will be back here next week to hang out with you guys and break it all down. For Phil Byrne across the way, Vince Progar saying good morning, go Lions, or down the field, over and out.